Hi, everybody. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers and the jury members for this remarkable event. I am honored to be here amongst you today to present to you the Saint Elie Church in Lebanon, once again. Sorry. So it's located in Untitled, meaning panoramic in Arabic, about 50 kilometers from Beirut, between two villages. It's a region characterized by its terrace topography and the abundance of vegetation. That's why we call it the Shuf's Valley of Gold. It's also a region with a heavy historical heritage that led to violent clashes during the Civil War between 1975 and 1990, resulting in the near total destruction of houses, places of worship, of which the old Saint Elie Church, and the displacement of all villagers. The Saint Elie Church is the first project of the reconciliation in this area. It was financed by the Ministry of the Displaced after an open architecture competition. First, an image, Marmema Church in the north of Lebanon. It's an archetype of the Maronite church in its purest tradition, since it's the oldest that we know. It was built in the year 749 with the following characteristics: a pure volumetry, a flat roof, a bell tower right above the entrance for technical reasons, logistical reasons, very few openings, and total absence of ornamentation. Of course, these characteristics are related to its epoch. Nonetheless, they became the architectural codes of the Maronite church. Sorry. Second image, the terraces of culture, this colonization of topography with dry stone walls to develop agriculture, represent the landscape heritage par excellence of Mount Lebanon. These two images accompanied the project since the very beginning. The project tends to create a new focal point in the landscape, inspiring renewal. With its strategic location, the radiance and the contrast of its materials, it can be seen from afar. It is the most emblematic project in the region on a socio-political level, and it writes a new page in the history of Mount Lebanon. The project comprises the church with its square, all dressed in white, solemnly sitting on a dry stone wall base that remodels the topography of the hillside to house a multipurpose hall with its annexes, deriving its language from the region's cultivated terraces. Since architecture should be the most faithful and honest witness of its time, Saint Elie Church settles in the respect and in the continuity of its history. That's why it adopts the characteristics of the Maronite church that I mentioned earlier. And it is anchored in the ground by this base, of which the stones were procured from the old church, from this site from excavation, but mostly from the remains of the demolished houses during the war. As a matter of fact, since the beginning of the construction works, I invited the villagers to bring what was left from their houses to help rebuild their church. They were numerous and proud to participate. First and foremost, the project stands at a gathering place, a public space, and a public space is per definition open to all. The project offers a platform for social interaction, a place, a space to overlook the diaporama and the horizon on 3 levels. The level of the church with its square, all devoid from obstacles, it seems to float. An intermediate level that I will go through further on, and a lower level linked to the ground by mimicry, and that allows the extension of the multipurpose hall during important ceremonies. The project occupies the whole parcel, even if it has an irregular shape. The extension of its exterior walls until the extremities of the parcel allow to suit the project in its environment. From the east, from Brie, it is possible to access the church by taking the same access passage of the old church. Also from the east, it's possible to step into the multipurpose hall through a large staircase, or directly from the west. The project occupies the same location as the old church. Of course, it's bigger. This is an image of the old church. Sorry for the resolution. This is one of the few that were remaining. It was built in 1770 and demolished in 1981 or 82. Its altar was the only element that stayed intact for many decades, and unfortunately, it had become the image of a wounded region for everybody. So we decided to highlight this witness from the past in the new project, facing the new church, to commemorate the history of the place. It's not about mourning the past, but celebrating the renewal. Of course, we had to work with local craftsmen to number, disassemble, and reassemble the stones of the altar as their original state, as we can see in the pictures. The church sparkles with its white bush-hammered stone cladding. The positioning of their stones ranging from 25 to 45 centimeters in height and disposed in a random manner unified the envelope. A same gesture allowed to erect the bell tower and to create, at the same time, the entrance. And it's the thickness of the entrance that filters the passage from the profane world to the sacred world. The church has a square base of 17 per 17 meters, and it can gather up to 250 people. The altar and the sacristy are positioned at the back to clear as much as possible the altar, which is 2 steps higher than the nave of the church. The secondary entrance allows a discrete entrance at the back of one of the lateral circulations. This is the view from Brie. It opens up to the panorama through a gentle slope. We can see the changing effect of the stones, either cold or warm tones, depending on the position of the sun. The secondary entrance is projected into the void, such as the small light niches that we will see further on, to leave exclusively the contact with the ground to the church. This is an image with a quick flashback from the construction works. We wanted absolutely to avoid any aesthetical consideration in this project, and we managed to define all spaces only with structure. So the project is the structure with cladding or an envelope. It allowed us, incidentally, to build the entirety of the project, even if the construction would have been stopped after the construction works or the concrete works, since it was financed by the government without a president at that time. So the political scene wasn't very stable. A place of worship is a museum where the artwork is spiritual. The work and natural light in this project was the determinant. From the entrance, we are drawn into an imposing slit that draws across. It is oriented north to avoid any unwanted backlighting effect during Mass. In this natural light box, white walls seem to diffuse light, and the Carrara marble flooring reflecting it in turn. Everything is done to amplify the setting of the interior geometry. The golden proportions were applied in the definition of spaces, horizontally for the nave of the church, vertically for the lateral circulations, on the ground for the marble tiling, more globally for all the elevations and for the openings of the multipurpose hall. Before going through the next slide, this rectangle is not only a golden rectangle. It is the exact silhouette of the old church at its exact location. In other words, it's the phantom of the old church. It's a void, it's a volume of prayers that celebrate its memory during every Mass. The interior of the church is crafted and hierarchized by several indirect lighting schemes that define its spiritual dimension. large zenithal openings above altar, sacristy, and confessional, as we can see in the section. Parietal on a human scale along the lateral circulations, and discrete at the back. A view from the back, framing fragments of distant landscape. The use of the Carrara marble for the ground, with its milky, profound, and living aspect, refers to the interior of antique churches as if to ensure it a certain affiliation. This is a view from the altar. We can see the reverse side of the bell tower, placed delicately on the back walls, separating the nave of the church from the sacristy and the confessional that bathe in an 11-meter-high halo. The liturgical codes are ensured by the number of openings. 3 light niches on each side refer to the Trinity, disposed on both sides and comprising 2 openings each, totalizing 12 openings referring to the Stations of the Cross. From the top, it's possible to step into the multipurpose hall called in by the light of a courtyard, natural light of a courtyard in the continuity. The courtyard, which is an element traditionally present in the architecture of the region. These 2 large openings illuminate the sunken part of the hall, as we can see in the section. This is a multipurpose hall, about 400 square meters. It is served by many services, annexes, slipping into or in the interstices of the structure, like the kitchen and the priest's office that are naturally lit from the courtyard that we just saw and accessible from the lower square. This is a view of the multipurpose hall, opening on 2 courtyards and landscape, 5 meters high, 4 meters under beams, and the beams are voluntarily apparent to reveal with tension the existence or the presence of the church above. This is how the Renaissance of St. Elie Church is expressed, by capturing the Chouf's landscape on the exterior and its light in the interior. Thank you.
Just one question. What is the percentage of Christians living in this area? Is it high in this area of Lebanon?
When we were constructing the project, it was almost none.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So it is a way to sign a presence for a new beginning.
And inspire renewal with a fresh and clean start by taking into consideration all the history.
So this is one of the reasons you design something, let's say, a small monument, a small contemporary monument too, because it's a very strong sign, no? This church.
Yes, we try to even to have something spontaneous in it and not calculated.
Okay. So which were the requests of the client? I mean, what did they ask you when they say, okay, let's build the church? Was there any specific request from the?
No, and that was the difficulty, because I had to come up with with a story that was saying this region had known a massacre. We should come back in a very humble way.
Sure. Okay. Yes, I understand. I fully understand.
Excuse me. The path with the ancient arch that was rebuilt, that you rebuilt, is an open church or a space that is in front of the new church, like a terrace. I don't understand what is the use of that space with the ancient arch that you rebuilt.
It's an open air chapel with an image of what once was something representing wounds.
So you can do celebration in open air in that.
Yeah, it's a small celebrating in open air.
That's okay.
And how does it look when you put all the furniture and everything? In
Yeah,
Maroun, 'cause
I
it
was
looks
expecting-
really
I was
empty and like nothing else.
I was expecting this question. As a matter of fact, for a year, I suggested to everybody to not have anything in the church. The idea was to give it life before giving it religion. So there was no furniture, no crosses, nothing. And these images were taken at that time.
Well, this is, I think, because of the very specific situation the south of Lebanon is living, because of these reasons, mainly for, let's say, communitarian, religious, political reason.
Yes, but at the same time, it is very difficult to. We can see there's no physical context.
Sure.
But the historical and the political context was so heavy.
I know.
We had to take it into consideration and the use of the stones.
And so now, how is the church going into life? How is it working?
Well, it's the I
beginning.
would say the Middle Age scheme. You know, or even before you build the church and then everything goes around. It's like it has more source than a mineral source, than a river,
Okay.
almost.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.